First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and set the level on top of the mold. Then I'm going to bring the mold into the platen and bring the locating ring into the locating hole of the stationary platen. And then I'll just bring the mold up to where the plate sits flat. I'll lock my hoist down so it don't move. I'm first going to go ahead and grab the top clamp and place it on the tool. Now you can see here that the clamp is at an angle. What you want to do is adjust your clamp so it becomes horizontal with the platen. Once that is horizontal, I'll go ahead and get one of my socket head cap screws started. And just bring it in finger tight. Now if the socket head cap screw goes in tough, I will check the screw to make sure none of the threads are burred, or I might re-chase the platen hole with a chase thread to make sure all the threads are clear. You should just be able to turn these in by finger, and if you do find any obstruction, you have to find the root cause of what's causing the obstruction on the socket head bolt that's going into the platen. Now I'll grab my wrench and I'll position myself above the mold, and I'll get my wrench started on my bolt here, and then I will bring the tool into level. Once the tool is level, I'll just go ahead and tighten down the bolt. And I'm torquing in about 55 to 60 foot-pounds of torque. Now I'll get my bottom clamp ready. Make sure my clamp is sitting horizontal. And tighten it down to 50 to 60 foot-pounds of torque. Depending on bolt size is going to depend on your torque requirements to tighten the bolts up. Now that I have the A, or the mold, completely hanging on the A half of the stationary platen, I am going to go ahead and relieve the weight of the hoist, and then go ahead and take the hoist out of the way. These two clamps are well more than enough to hold the clamp in place without it falling out. The next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and install the ejector tie-in system. And just snug. They don't need to be over torqued. Once the tie-in system is tied in, they should never back out on you. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean my movable half, the B half of the tool, movable platen. And I'm going to go ahead and close the back gate. And Dave, if you could come over here, please. The next step that I need to do is I actually need to teach the press the actual mold thickness of the mold, so when I actually get up and start running production, it will be set for its clamp requirements and everything. On this particular model, it has an auto clamp 0, And what that does, automatically it will find that actual stack height of the mold and set the clamp tonnage. So I turn my power on, my motor on, I'm in setup mode, and then I'll touch my auto clamp 0 and it will begin the die height adjustment process. And as if you look, the clamp's moving very slow. In setup mode, this is where you're limited on causing any damage. All these are internal set points that let the platen move slowly. So this procedure right here is going to be done all automatically on this press. Now this is a hybrid electric injection molding machine, so it has a hydraulic injection ram and a servo-driven ejector system and a hydraulic injection cylinder with accumulator with a servo-driven screw rocade. And now I've heard the locking mechanism locked in, and now the mold has been adjusted for its die height. So the next procedure I'm going to do is go ahead and clamp in the B half of the tool. So I'll remove my eye bolt that I used to set the tool, and I'll begin clamping in the B half of the tool. And clamping in the B half was the same way as clamping in the A half of the tool. Now these clamps can be set in either direction. As long as there's support that's holding the mold in, it could be either set this way, this taken out, reversed, or set in this way. So this one I went ahead and set up the opposite way so you can see how that also works on the clamp. And they're made that way just in case you have different bolt lengths and stuff. It just makes it a little bit easier to set the mold up. Now after the clamps are tightened, the B half is now tied in, I'm going to go ahead and remove the mold safety strap so I can open the mold up and tie in the ejector system. So now I'm going to go ahead and close the gate back up. And then I'm slowly going to open the mold up, and still in mold set. Opened it up the rest of the way in manual, and now I'm going to go ahead and run my ejector system forward so I can tie in my ejectors to the ejector butterfly on the press. I'll grab my two lock-ins. Now, since I've tied in my ejector system, this particular model, I'll have to reset my 0 position on the ejector settings on the press. So I'll go back into setup, hit auto clamp 0, and now the ejectors are going to find their new 0 position on the return position, and the mold's going to be all set. On this particular model, once those ejector systems are set, even though I've already done a mold teach, it remembers that mold thickness, so I can just go right back into manual, open the mold up in manual, run my ejector system, open the gate. Now the tool can be watered and ready for production. And that's how you set up a 6-inch round mate master frame in a Sodic Plus Tac injection molding machine. Thank you.